Hello, BookTube. We meet again for another sexy Steve stream. It's becoming quite a bit of a habit. For me, anyway, I don't know what the rest of you have as an excuse, but for me, I make a video or more than one video during the day. I walk the bean whenever she feels like going out. I do work, my daily work. I obsess about the daily little things that bother me or or I'm currently working on. Right now, it's a massive game of bookcase Jenga. Massive. Where it's just like trimming a hedge. You do a little and then you think, "Oh, that doesn't look right," so you do a little more until finally you're out of hedge. I am now thinking that almost every one of these bookcases needs to be moved in order for the perfect fit to happen. And a part of me is thinking that the perfect solution to bookcase Jenga is not to move around all the bookcases, it's to get rid of 1,000 more books and then throw away 2 bookcases. Think maybe then the problem would solve itself. But while I'm doing all that stuff during the day, I find myself looking forward to, I don't know, can I get enough done during the day to justify a Steve stream? Can I do that? Talk to my imaginary booktube friends for a while? Because every time I do this, it is so much fun. It's just so much fun. But during the course of the day, while I'm doing other things, I'm thinking, okay, can I justify it? Can I justify a Steve stream? What do I want to talk to everybody about today, tonight, and this afternoon? I was here on the fainting couch. The afternoon, actually, it was late morning. The morning sunlight was blasting the couch. The bean and I were suffused with light. We were glowing like we were God's anointed. And I was writing. I was writing NaNoWriMo. I was writing Vio Fala, my story for NaNoWriMo. Uh, and it I was writing it and I was thinking, okay, well, I don't want this to end. I know I've said this about my own particular NaNoWriMo project, but I don't want Viofala to end, even though I don't want to continue it. It is crystalline the way it is. It's the exact right breakdown of chapters for the exact right plot for the exact right developments that are going to happen in the exact right speed in the exact right way. And I was going to finish the story today, but I did not. I did not. I to the limited extent that I can stretch this out, I am rationing. I did, however, finish NaNoWriMo today. The story reached 50,000 words today. I have the chapters have been some of them a little bit long because I've been having such a joy in writing it. There's one chapter left. I have to finish Viofala tonight or tomorrow, probably tomorrow, just to stretch it out as long as possible. And when I did that today on the fainting couch, when just the sunlight was blasting through, when I did that, I thought that would be the good springboard to Steve Stream discussion because it's the end. I did finish NaNoWriMo. I reached 50,000 words. I'll exceed 50,000 words tomorrow with the final chapter of my story. And that makes me curious. This is the first time I've ever finished NaNoWriMo early, and that makes me curious how everybody else is doing. I don't know how many of you are doing NaNoWriMo, but I know I'm in touch with a lot of people who are, and no one's ahead of schedule that I'm in touch with. I mean, of course, it's a vast community. I wouldn't know all the people who are involved. And the community itself has been rocked by accusations of grooming in the community boards. That's bad, really bad. If there's any substance to it, that's really bad. Uh, but the impression I get from the people I am in touch with is that no one is ahead of schedule. And it seems a little bit weird to say ahead of schedule when it comes to NaNoWriMo or writing projects of any kind. When I finish tomorrow, it's going to feel weird. That's never happened to me before that I have not miscalculated because if I had written this steadily at the clip that I originally laid out, I would be finishing at the end of the month. But I couldn't help myself. It was just so much fun. I couldn't help myself. So, uh, I, the fact that I actually won NaNoWriMo this morning, that I reached 50,000 words, even though my project isn't done, made me think about writing videos, stuff that I have seen elsewhere, and also stuff that I might want to do myself. Oddly enough, the end of NaNoWriMo, now that it's within sight, it's it's a week away, or less than a week away, right? Friday is Rosh Hashanah or Hanukkah. Friday is the first of December, is it not? I don't know, and I don't have a calendar near me, but I'm pretty sure that Friday is the 1st of December. So it's less than a week left of NaNoWriMo. And yet, even though that's true, it struck me that that's more of a reason. I feel more of a reason to talk about writing than when NaNoWriMo was in full swing. So that was the excuse that I gave myself this morning. If you can get enough work done, if you can get enough stuff done, and if Frida is okay, then maybe you can justify another Steve stream because they're so much fun. And so here I am. That's really all. I don't have a huge throat clearing ahead of time uh, to do this time. I rectified the omission that all of you pointed out in last night's Steve stream. I made a video about shark books. I did not mention in that video, I debated for a while whether or not I should extend that video to shark movies and also shark booktube channels or YouTube channels. There's a whole bunch of them. I debated whether or not I thought just keep the focus on books, especially since you never know who's going to be around on YouTube, who's going to leave or come or go. That's why I hesitate to mention new booktube channels because who knows if the person makes one video and you never hear from them again. The two YouTube channels that I would recommend for sharks are a channel called Sharks Happen and a channel called Shark Bites, Bytes. They are very different on the surface. I believe they are united by an absolutely undying fascination with sharks. But the guy in Sharks Happen, his fascination is landlocked. He has, I believe, his fascination comes from horror, from terror. These things are terrifying. It is fundamentally absurd in his mind and also in mine that you would sail out to open water and jump in. That is just, or that you would surf at dawn or at dusk, or any of the lunatic things that people do, that you would go voluntarily to swim in the ocean where there are sharks, I think strikes him as just about as insane as it strikes me. But it's led, in both of our cases, if I'm right, it's led to a lifelong fascination with the lore and the science of sharks. So he isn't an amateur. I don't think he would object to me calling him that. He's a passionate amateur. Since I myself am a passionate amateur about everything except book reviewing and dogs, I don't associate any insult with that. But he goes over cases ranging, for the last century, and talks about them a bit, assembles all that we can know from the news footage of whenever it happens, and also has some little bits and pieces, some little features on his channel about what were you thinking, especially crazy behavior around sharks or things like that. Uh, and then Shark Bites is the opposite end of the spectrum. He's much younger. He's half the age of the host of Sharks Happen, and he is himself a shark biologist. And has done all the things that the host of Sharks Happen and I would never in a million years do. He has snorkeled on reefs. He has scuba dived off reefs and off wrecks. It's just insane, absolutely insane. He has met sharks in the wild, and he is fascinated by them. That's the fascination that they both share. But his fascination is born of love, because one of them has not bitten his head off yet, which would make continuing his channel a little bit difficult. And I can definitely recommend those two, Sharks Happen and Shark Bites. They are two of the best shark channels on YouTube. But I didn't know that that fit with the video that I was doing any more than shark videos did, shark movies. Uh, and also with shark movies, I wondered if that list would be even more predictable than my shark books list was. So I just didn't do it because this isn't, after all, a movie channel. But I did that, and I did my work. I did work first of all, first thing. I try whenever I can, whenever it's amenable to Frida. I try to get my actual work done, deadline paid work done, before the sun crests the hill in the east, the hill to the east behind my house. I like to have all of that done before the sun crests that hill, so that I've got the whole expanse of the day in front of me to parcel out the way I want. And also it helps because sometimes, not now, not right now in the calendar, but sometimes it's good to get the work done because you're going to get nips and pecks from editors in the course of the day, and you got to be ready for that. That's going to take time. You're going to have to swerve out of your way to do that. I'm not going to have to worry about that, I don't think, until the new year. I'm pretty sure that all the editors that I deal with are just going to be uh, gone, more or less. Go. They might check into the office in December a couple of times, but they won't be up my nose with a nice plastic straw. They won't be doing that. I don't think that'll be true. I don't think I have to worry about anything like that until next year. Uh, and I figured if I do all of that, and there's everything's clean, and I've given the surly houseboy his marching orders, and I've elaborately taken care of the bean whenever she wants to go outside, whenever she wants to do anything, then I can justify a Steve stream. The one little wrinkle, the one change, the one different thing with Frida today. Again, I'm trying not to hurry the future. I'm trying not to be gloomy about my baby growing up, about my baby growing old. There's no possible way that you can call a 7-year-old dog a puppy or even puppy like. There's no way that you could do that. But I'm trying to push it off and deny it. But today, in the late afternoon, we got back from our latest walk and it was time to eat. And I fixed her bowl full of food and I put it on the floor next to her bowl full of water. She was here on the fainting couch, surrounded by pillows and blankets. And she didn't leap down off the couch like she usually does when her food is presented. She didn't leap down. Instead, she just looked at it and looked at me. And I thought, well, it's there when you want it. I walked out of the room and fixed some rice of my own, and then I came back in and she was still looking at it. And I realized, do you maybe want me to put that up on the couch with you? And I did, and she ate right away. So that's new. That has never happened before. She's a very sloppy eater, so I had a lot of cleaning up to do on the couch when she was done. But if that's a preference of hers, then that's what's going to happen, and that is going to be weird. That will give me pause. I'm trying not to think about it. So let me distract myself in the best way possible with the chat. Hmm? I could talk about books. I could make that a routine of these Steve streams, but I figure you if you want to know about books, you can ask, or I'll get to it. We have until 10 past the hour, after all. So how we're going to start off with Jenny Parks, regular on the Steve Strat. Hi Steve, thanks for the shark video. I now have a few more books to add to my TBR next year. And J. Scott Phillips, I see you posted the shark video, but now I have to watch it until 10. You have to wait to watch it until 10 past the hour. Yes, and Ingrid Fitz wants a shark read along. New shark book every month, says Jenny Parks. Well, there's no way for me to think about that. Read alongs are going to have to wait. The Bookish Bryants are here. Hello. Cheryl Olsenbeck is here. Hello. Ingrid Fitz says hello. J. Scott Phillips says, I'm looking forward to Sharkuary. I wouldn't think about events in January if I were you. Not on this channel, anyway. Ingrid Fitz, that sounds great. J. Scott Gola Muad'Dib says hi. James Rucala says, one time I was at a Greek restaurant in Queens, New York, and ordered a grilled shark. My friend said, no, you can't eat monster. Or is there a comma missing? Uh, uh, because sharks are badly endangered. I know that fishermen report their numbers are rebounding, but they are badly harvested. Uh, and I've actually had shark, and I found it completely just bland, just utterly bland, no taste at all. Uh, James Rucala says he wasn't even being sarcastic. Ingrid Fitz says it's like eating Godzilla. Jenny Park says Steve streams don't need justification. You just always keep us on correct literary tack. You don't want us going back to Dude Bro Lit. No, I don't want you going to Dude Bro Lit, but there's so much else to read. Uh, Richard Reeves is here. Just finished rewatching season 1, episode 1 of Star Trek Voyager for the first time in years. The first episode of Voyager. Wow. Oh my, whatever prompted you to do that? Good lord. Was that on a streaming service? You have the DVDs as well, I think. Uh, boy, oh boy. First episode of Voyager. Mm. Where Janeway says, I'm not fond of being referred to as Mister. Yeah, you can call me Captain. Ma'am in a crunch. At crunch time, it's just to tell Ensign Kim, it's not crunch time yet. I'll let you know. uh, let's see here. Jordan Thomas says, howdy. Richard reads, failed at NaNoWriMo. Yeah, it happens. It happens. I always worry. In every October, I worry that it's going to happen to me, but Ooh, not me, not this time. Oh my, not this time. Jordan Thomas again. I've followed for a while and love your channel as an avid book lover. Well, isn't that nice of you? Thank you. Hamilton Thompson. I just got a notification of a ninja stream. Hi, Steve. Hello. Richard Reeves is saying hello to the Bookish Brides. Golem Odiv says I finished Sword and Sorcery short story that I started November 1st. Thursday, I continued my sci-fi story. Oh, you do a storm of writing. That's so wonderful to hear. Tolstoy 111. I'm watching you from a Doctor Who convention in Chicago. Peter Davison, Colin Baker, and Sylvester McCoy are here, as is original companion Carol Ann Ford. Good Lord. You're watching me there? Does anybody else at the convention know that there's a Stevestream going? One of the three doctors that you mentioned there is, in fact, an avid reader. He would be right at home on BookTube. Uh, Hannah's books, Hanukkah starts on the night of the 7th this year. No, no, it starts on the 1st, does it not? No? Oh, all right, well, the night of the 7th. All right, well, I've got Hanukkah all wrong then. Omid Fazeli is here. You need to prioritize two things. First, get the hang of how to self-publish, and second, make a playlist for your channel. Well, neither one of those is going to happen in the remainder of 2023. Playlists definitely are necessary. Actually, they both are. They both are. 2024. If I return, if I still care about any of this, if I'm still recognizably me, will be like the fifth year in a row that I've said this is the year I'm going to self-publish a lot. So it can't keep happening that way. Ingrid Fitz says sharks are fascinating and scary. I agree, they are. Monet Doyle says hello, Steve. I just got home from eating at Carrabba's. No Carrabba's. Jordan Thomas is responding to Omid. Self-publishing is definitely the way to go. I agree completely. Ridiculous that I haven't done it. I, I agree completely. I just have not. I went all 2023 with the best of ideas and with offers of help from other people, and I just didn't do it. Mind Doc. Hi, Steve. The author Dean Wesley Smith has claimed, if I remember correctly, that most professional authors are pantsers, or they write into the dark, as he says it. Does that sound accurate to you? It does. It does. Uh, uh, if you mean you said, oh no, no, okay, no, it doesn't. Plantsers is the word that I would be thinking of. If Dean Wesley Smith says that he writes without having any idea what he's going to do from one day to another, he's just lying, and that is what pantsing is. Seat of the pants, where you just don't have a plan. It, I, if he actually means plantsers, people who do have a plan, but they're still improvising from paragraph to paragraph, from section to section, then I think he's right. I don't think there's any actual other way to write that has any joy in it. If you were doing a project, you would probably plan it out to a fairly well, get it done, make sure that it gets done by doing it that way. But even Via Fala, with my story for NaNoWriMo, I knew exactly what I wanted to happen. I knew what the dramatic beats were. I knew what the three action sequences were. I knew what the conclusion was. I knew what all the personal development was. But I didn't know anything more than that's a lot. But I didn't know anything more than that. Going into each chapter, I still had plenty of room to make those things happen, to get where I want to be. I knew I wanted to get from C to D, and I knew I wanted to get there in one chapter, but I hadn't planned how I wanted to do that specifically. And that was a great feeling. But pantsing, all writers are not pantsers. Absolutely not. They couldn't be. Um, Evil Josu, I'm about 1,000 words ahead of schedule. I'm having a blast, but I'm afraid my story will be bloated and dull to a reader. Have you ever had that issue in past Novembers, Steve? Well, I wouldn't know, would I? I would always, of course, have the greatest regard for my own prose. I know every once in a while I will write a story for NaNoWriMo that I know works. And I don't think that's a function of writing. I think that's a function of editing, of have been an editor and a reviewer for so long that I can recognize when something works, and it doesn't actually matter if it's mine or somebody else's. Uh, there have been a handful of stories for NaNoWriMo that I know work, and I know that Viofala does. It just isn't fashionable at all. So the people who only read for fashion, and there are plenty of them, and unfortunately plenty of them who have booktube channels, the people who only read for fashion won't even be able to see it. It's operating on a wavelength that their eyes won't even be able to take in anymore. I feel sorry for those people, but I also scorn them. So the idea of writing for them, I quickly discarded the idea of writing for them. Instead, it's just a story that pleases me. I believe that that a lot of people, it would please a lot of people. So I certainly didn't have that feeling this time around. not at all, not in the slightest. And you could be the judge, at least partially. I put 2 chapters up on the NaNoWriMo website of Vio Fala, the first chapter and then a middle chapter somewhere, just because I couldn't help myself. I'm having to resist putting the final chapter up because it would legitimately spoil the end of the book if it ever becomes a book. I wouldn't want the final chapters sitting up there. But you can tell me whether or not those chapters are interesting in any way. I certainly don't think they're bloated. Um, Auntie Gaia says, "No way I'm ever going in the ocean. I'd rather my family find my whole body rather than just a mangled half." It's always so fun in a weird kind of way to read accounts of survivors. They're always hauled out of the ocean and emergency to the nearest hospital with a look of utter befuddlement. I'm like, what on earth? What? Who could ever have expected this? Every single time they are. Uh, oh, wait, the chat jumps again here. We're gonna go back and find you. Golem Udib. I'm currently reading The Three Body Problem on my Kindle. I'm enjoying it so far. Good. Kevin J. N says, I feel much better surfing in Hawaii than my home waters of New Jersey. You're not helping me suppress that voice of reason that says, get out of the water. It's insane for you to surf. Surfing is insane. Oh my God. It's just insane. Some surfers that I know, including a couple of stars on Instagram, say yeah, I just don't think about it. I mean, the sharks aren't a problem. They really aren't. I mean, every once in a while you'll hear from somebody, I think there's a shark around, or every once in a while you'll see one. Kelly Slater used to report when he was on the professional surfing circuit, probably still is. He used to report that some venues were noticeably more sharky than others. He used that word, where because the surfing is 1/10 of what you're doing. The rest of it is you sitting on your board, bobbing up and down on the swells, exactly where sharks eat and feed. uh, and people always say that. The surfers that I know say, it's not, you got to go out and face the unknown. I used to know one person who surfed at night. He swam at night. He would go out swimming at night. He had a house on the beach. He would go for a swim at night, every night. Insane, utterly insane behavior. That is suicidal behavior. Surfers the same way. I would everyone I know I try never to be Debbie Downer with them, but every once in a while I would want out of exasperation over wine and wine and calzones, I would say, "Okay, you say that, but it only takes one time of you being wrong and you don't have a left leg anymore. And all of your life is different. The whole of your life is different if that happens." That's the risk you're running. It's not, oh, you can't worry about this sort of thing. You got to face your fears. Oh, it's been years since there was even a report or anything like that. And if it happens, well, I'll just rush out of the water. No, no. If it happens and you're lucky enough to live, your whole life is changed. Just it's just insane. It's just absolutely insane. It's like going to Las Vegas, saying, I've always wanted to try the craps table. I just always have, and people are telling you along the way to as you go to the craps table at Caesar's Palace that the craps are sometimes live explosives that'll take your hand off, and you do it anyway. There's a single person in the world who would do that anyway, even if they were told by the most knowledgeable people in the world that it's only 1 in a million crap that's actually an explosive that'll take your hand off. Even if they were told the odds are 1 in a million, there isn't anyone who would do that. Not anyone. But when it comes to surfing, anyway. Anti Guy says, that being said, Glass Beach near Fort Bragg is gorgeous in the summer. Beaches are gorgeous. Absolutely. Doesn't mean you have to go swimming. Volcanoes are gorgeous too. You don't go diving in. Uh, Jenny Park says, Frida is turning into a couch potato. I don't know. She's not turning into a couch potato. No, she's anything but lazy. But the floor is cold. It's colder down there. And the jumping up and down, maybe on 6 going on 7-year-old joints and muscles. Maybe that's not something she wants to do just unthinkingly anymore. I now that I this that was startling to me to put the bowl up on the couch and have her just happily eat. Uh, now that I've done that and that has actually happened, I really need to put forward plans for a ramp for her to get up and down off the couch much more easily, and maybe another ramp to get up and down off the bed. Although she doesn't go to bed voluntarily It's been our ritual since she was this big that I carry her to bed, so she doesn't even really think about that. But a ramp on the couch, think that might be necessary. I think that might be the time. Connor says the less said about my NaNoWriMo, the better. Oh, that's a shame. I can't shut up about mine. Jordan, no, Monet Doyle says, I'm enjoying reading my book by Maisie Yates. Well, Maisie Yates will not let you down. I don't know. I've only read like 6 or 7 of her books. But she never even close to letting me down. And the reputation she had is that nothing she writes is bad. Jordan Thomas, December 7th, there's a public menorah lighting in my city. I'm excited for. Okay, so it's the 7th. Okay, so I got it wrong. It's not December 1st. Instead, it's a date that will live in infamy. Unless you're a crackpot Bible YouTube channel that I sometimes watch. He does live streams all the time about how the world's going to end in 2 years. And how he's absolutely sure of this. I have read the prophecies. I have read the book of Revelation. I am absolutely sure of this. He's not scamming his followers for money, but he is declaring that the world is going to end in 2 years. And every once in a while, I leave a comment on his stream saying, you do know that this video is going to be up in 2 years. It's still going to be on YouTube in 2 years. The world's not going to end. And you know that as well as I do. So what are you going to do then? And he had a stream today. I only watched a little bit of it, just long enough to hear him say that the Japanese attacks on Pearl Harbor were on December 6th. So I guess the fuzziness of prophecy extends in both directions on time's arrow. Erica Wallace, what is your opinion on Stephen King's book on writing? It's not good. It's in fact bad. Which makes perfect sense. If a bad writer writes a book on writing, the advice in that book will necessarily be bad. If a bad writer knew all sorts of good advice on writing, he'd be a good writer. Let's see here. Jordan Thomas, I encourage you to, and you've got some sort of cartoon. Uh, I encourage you to, um, I don't know what the cartoon is. Is it a church? It looks like a ray gun. More than happy to help. Currently 3 under my belt. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't. I can't risk going back up in the chat because I'm worried the chat will bounce me out, and I actually don't know what that means. If you've got 3 ray guns under your belt, then I don't want to cross you. That's for sure. Carolyn Nixon says, "Am I blocked? You skipped my comment." I thought this was the first comment from you that I've seen. Uh, Aaron says Dean Wesley Smith also says that he ghost writes regularly for the most famous and successful writers who can't hit their deadlines and that he can mimic anyone's style perfectly. He's a prolific liar. Well, I'm not going to say that. I'm certainly not going to malign anyone who occasionally ghost writes to finish someone else's project because they can't hit their deadline. That doesn't make you a liar. I might say that makes you kind of sexy. Oh, besides, it's a publisher that's lying. This is what we're going to say. We're going to go with that. Let's see here. Faisal says, any suggestions about how to become more articulate? More articulate? I No, not really. I mean, the simplest piece of advice I guess I could offer would be to read out loud. When you're reading stuff, read it out loud. That will It's all muscle memory. That will help your mouth, your vocal cords, your brain, your reading brain, your pronouncing brain to get over difficulties faster. I guess that might work. Uh, let's see here. Wingus says, "What booktubers read for fashion?" Well, the ones who have political, social, Twitter agendas in mind, they're looking at books to check boxes. They aren't caring whether or not the book has any kind of emotional effect because they're divorced from the emotional effect. They don't actually like reading. It's just solely virtue signaling. It's solely, is this book correct? And if it's not, what ways does it deviate from correctness? In other words, fashion. Uh, and I'll just assess that. I'll talk about that. This is a little problematic. I don't like something that an author said on a Facebook board 15 years ago. So maybe this book is bad that they wrote today. That sort of thing anybody who looks at something like that is going to look at the basic premise of Vio Fala, for instance, and say, oh, check your privilege or something of those, whatever they would say. There would be a response like that. They wouldn't read it. So, uh, the Bookish Bryant say, Steve, have you heard of the new Savage Sword of Conan coming in February? It will be black and white, full side magazine written by Jim Zub. I'm really excited for it. I have heard about it. Michael K. Vaughan told me about it, and I didn't believe it at first. We'll see. I am not the biggest fan of Jim Zub's writing, to put it mildly, um, but we'll see. I definitely get it. I feel a little bit guilty about my comic shop because I haven't spoken to my comic book guy in quite some time, and I wonder if maybe I had did I leave instructions for him about a pull list and then forget about it? If I did, I certainly did forget about them. Has he been pulling things all this time? Do I have 1,000 comics waiting for me? I can't be the first person who had that. I fell out of touch with my comic shop. I can't be the first person who's going to ask him to just repatriate all those things. But I should email him and see. Although, even if I did, I couldn't ask him to do any favors for. I couldn't say put an issue of Savage Sword aside. If I have done that, I don't know whether I have or not. It's a mess, and I don't really have convenient access to any other comic shop. There used to be one on the main street, just a few minutes away from me, but there isn't anymore. That's gone. So I don't know how I would work that. Let's see here. Martin S says, "Hello, I just finished True Grit and enjoyed it a lot. Isn't it terrific?" Tolstoy 111 says, "I finally got into Trollope, the Warden. I must admit, it's hard going. One has to accept his aesthetic of the mundane." Well, it's a good way to put it. That is exactly what you have to do. He is not putting on airs. He is not doing the kind of quasi, hey, look at me allegory of a Dickens. He's not, he doesn't have anything like the genius of the 19th century Russians. Instead, he is telling you a story, and it has wise, gentle little glints of insight into human nature. Sometimes he writes on a bigger canvas, but for the Warden, no, the Warden is a very low key, gentle story. It's wonderful. By all means, check out my read along of the Warden. Maybe that'll help. Evil Joshu says, "What is the unfashionable element you've alluded to in Viofala? As a young, ambitious influencer, you just may bring it back into fashion." Well, I'd have to publish it first, wouldn't I? But no, Viofala deals with uh, justice. The main theme is justice, and if it's in the 21st century for the Twitter mob that rules the publishing industry, if it's not justice for the marginalized, then it doesn't count. Who cares about it at all? Uh, it's it's. I don't think it would be fashionable. I think a lot of readers that I know, amateur, dumb, posturing readers on BookTube and off, would dismiss it out of hand after chapter one. I could be wrong. Chapter one is posted on the NaNoWriMo website, so you can go and read it for yourself, see if maybe I'm wrong. Ryan says, "I did some night scuba dives on Rex and it was magical." In 2022, there were 5 fatal shark attacks in the world. Probably far more fall out of trees and die. You are incorrect. Your statistics are incorrect. And the idea of night diving a wreck it might have been magical, but it's insane. That is insane behavior. As long as you recognize that, if you had a magical time, plenty of people have magical experiences doing insane things. The latest trend for mega influencers is to jump out of a plane with no parachute because you've gone up with a outfit of people who do have parachutes who are telling you, we do this professionally, we will make our way to you, grapple you, and deploy our own parachutes. It's being called the ultimate high. You jump out of a plane with no parachute, completely trusting to the people who are jumping with you to get to you and save your life. Uh, that may be magical, just like diving a wreck at night would be magical, but it's still patently insane. That is patently insane behavior. Uh, and again, as I mentioned in my shark video, there is no use quoting probability when you are distorting probability. None at all. Sitting here on my couch at Hyde Cottage, I am in no danger of being struck by lightning. If I were to go golfing in a lightning storm on an open tree enshrouded golf course, I'd be much more likely to be struck by lightning. It's so it isn't that the probabilities are exactly even of me being struck by lightning whenever. You can goose the probabilities. Scuba diving around a wreck at night is a real good way to do that. But I'm glad you survived. Uh, uh, Ryan says, "But did enjoy the video. Thanks, Steve." Well, the but is a courtesy from you that I don't require. The but is you giving me a little pat on the head, even though I got statistics wrong when I did not. Your statistics are wrong. So I appreciate the vote of confidence for the video, for little Timmy doing a video, even though it was mostly wrong, but it wasn't. Gola Muad'Dib says one thing that helped me writing is just putting down ideas or a history of events. The actual scenes come later. Uh, Usually for me, but not this time. I knew everything I wanted to do with Viofala, everything, right from the beginning. It was wonderful. I couldn't wait to do it. Richardson reads, I have gone swimming many times off ship right in the middle of the North Atlantic. We'd have guys in fast boats circling us with guys carrying M16s to protect us. Well, see, I've seen people do that sort of thing, and I wouldn't. How would you even enjoy it if you're in that much danger? And of course, guys with M16s couldn't protect you. But if that kind of precaution is required, I don't see. God, I see these videos of people out on smaller sailcraft or on slightly larger cruise ships. And one of the fun things they're going to do is dive off and swim for a while, frolic in the ocean. Rena is reading says, unfortunately, I know several people, very few rowdy young men especially, who would definitely play craps if they had a chance of exploding. Adrenaline junkies. Well, okay, all right, that would be the case. Every avid surfer that I know is, in fact, an adrenaline junkie. Actually, just plain junkie. As I mentioned in my shark video today, I don't know anyone who's deeply into surfing, especially surfing in the morning or before dawn or at dusk into nightfall, who isn't also a pothead. So it might be just not just adrenaline junkies, but that they need to be constantly goosing their own body chemistry, no matter what the means. But I'm sure there are people who don't do that. But all the surfers, the avid surfers that I've known who risk life and limb, that's what you're doing when you're out there, an hour before dawn. All the ones that I knew couldn't go a day sober. So maybe there's a connection there. Becky Fair says, I never even thought about writing, not counting required academic writing, until I started watching your Stevestreams. It might be fun to try. It will be fun to try. It will be. Not at first, as with anything new. Not at first. But once you get going, it's wonderful. It's an indescribable feeling, but it is wonderful. It's like nothing else. Kevin J.N. says, the dawn patrol in Waikiki is so fun. Steve, surfing is the source. Yeah, that's great. Okay, it's the source of femoral artery bleed out. Don't you feel alive on the beach? I do. I love the beach. As I've said, I love tidal pools and exploring them. I spent endless amounts of time on beaches and poking around in tidal pools. I am getting older, so maybe I should hang up my wetsuit. We had a juvenile GW near. Okay. All right. Well, that your comment is all over the map, but surfing is not the source. That's absurd. There is no source because there's no supernatural. There's no spiritual element to life. There's no supernatural element to existence. But a juvenile great white is likely to bite you. They don't know any better. And maybe they're staking out territory. Maybe they're making a hunting territory of their own. It's insane for you to put yourself within range of them. That is insane. You are insanely counting on raw luck. Because if raw luck doesn't happen, you're going to lose either your life is going to drastically change, either because you are then an amputee or because you're dead. That is my example of craps in Las Vegas that are explosive, that will take your hand off. Every once in a while it happens. Go ahead, enjoy. That is just insane. No sane person. Anyway, you should hang up your wetsuit. The sooner the better. Richardson Reeds tried that comment while cooking. Awkward. oh God, you bounced the chat, you troublemaker. Where did you go? Oh my God. Oh, there we go. Okay, Kevin J. and My Home Break. Jordan Thomas says, regarding self-publishing, 3 books written. Oh, that's what you have under your belt. 3 self-published books. Wow. That's quite a bit. That's quite a bit of experience. Boy, oh boy, I'd love to pick your brain. If you live anywhere near High Cottage, you want to come over here for wine and calzones. I'll be taking notes the whole time while Frida is screaming at you. Kevin J.N., I guess I should concentrate on my birding. Please don't tell me the dangers of bird watching. There's no dangers of bird watching at all. No, not at all. I know so many people in New York that are fascinated by this owl that seems to be have taken up residence, and it can be spotted everywhere. They track its every movement, minute by minute. And also, I realize you're kidding, but there's no equivalence, right? There's no equivalence at all. A 15-foot shark can kill you, and because the oceans outside of the continental shelf have been trawled dry of fish, they may want to eat you. There is film footage of this. In just the last couple of years, it's happened to 4 or 5 people on film, of them not just being bitten and being really surprised and calling for help, but of them being systematically eaten. Even if the systematic eating doesn't happen, you're out there utterly defenseless in their kitchen. That is not equivalent to birding, even jokingly. It's not. But anyway, I'm not. In other words, you're saying, please don't tell me the dangers of birding. Like I'm seeing dangers everywhere. I'm not. The dangers of surfing are unbelievably self-evident. They don't require a worried old maid's imagination. Golem Muad'Dib, the world was supposed to end in 2000 and 2012. I'm still patiently waiting for the apocalypse. The guy that I listen to today, he has been doing this. He does live streams all the time, more than I do. And he is constantly saying it's right there in the text. It's really easy to see. These are the signs. They're happening right now. None of us are going to grow old. He doesn't say that. But the subtext of what he's saying is that neither I nor anyone listening to me are going to grow old. and the internet is so-called forever. His videos, if he doesn't delete them, they'll still be findable. In 5 years, they'll still be findable. It's insane. It's just insane. There's a kind of a hungry nihilism to it that I don't like the look of at all. A view from the bar is here. Steve, I interviewed Tess Gerritsen today. After lots of deliberation, I did not mention my friend who worked in Barnes and Noble. Oh my, good for you. Why did you interview her? Just for the fun of it? I imagine she's a very good interview. Very, very uh, polished. I don't think she would ever allow the interview to fail. Even, I mean, you're a good interviewer, so it wouldn't fail anyway. But uh, did you interview her for print? Maybe for money? Very curious to know. You never write. You never call. Uh, Omid Fazeli is back. I thoroughly enjoyed reading The Call of the Wild. The movie, however, left a lot to be desired. Completely changed the mood of the book. Your opinion? I agree. I agree. London has never been filmed correctly. He's never been filmed. Don't know what that would take, but it's never been done. Jenny Parks, if we don't get zombies, then I demand the manager. Well, it's not zombies. It's not zombies. It's if it's Apophis, that's one thing. If astronomers are wrong, if anything happens, if a tiny rock the size of a snowball strikes Apophis at just the right time with just the right speed, well, then that could be it. Even that wouldn't be instantaneous. If Apophis, I mean, Apophis is going to come incredibly close to Earth in just a few years, incredibly close. If instead of coming incredibly close, it strikes the planet, well, it's gigantic. That would probably set about climactic changes that would end all non-microbial life on Earth. Certainly, it would reduce human civilization to rubble, to absolute beggary. But if it's not that, it's going to be humans doing what humans always do. The only reason this lunatic on his YouTube channel could be saying we're not going to grow old, that the next 2 years are going to be it, is because he believes in the supernatural or he wants his listeners to. But he can't produce the supernatural. He can't prove that it exists in any way, so it doesn't exist in any way. Absent that, it's just going to be one damn thing after another. It's going to be bad enough for the world, as I've been pointing out now for 8 years. There is no snide, behind the hands laughter if America falls to fascism. There is no place on earth that's safe if America falls to fascism, unless you're in another fascist country and your buddies. Otherwise, uh, it's 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 not the same thing as a little militaristic country in Europe falling to fascism in the middle of the 20th century. That's not if the most powerful country in the world falls to fascism, that's going to be a completely different thing. There won't be any safe pockets anywhere in the world. That's what it will be. It won't be that the world ends. It won't be zombies. It'll be red hats. But anyway, Alan, I read for fashion, which is why I'm currently reading John Buchan. We set our own fashions in this little corner of booktube. It's very nice. Stephen Brunstein, I watch Stevestream because I understand it's the fashionable thing to do. Connor says, I finished Discipline and Punish on to Emerson. You finished Discipline and Punish, did you? Uh, was it a worshipful edition, that little paperback that it used to be the norm? Or was there maybe an introduction that in any way pushed back on all the historical inaccuracies? Did the critical apparatus of the edition that you read push back on anything? Oh, that's be too much to hope for, I guess. Alan uh, is responding to Ryan. Uh, James Rucala says, I found a copy of Dario Fo's The Pope's Daughter today. Do you like any of his work? No, I don't. I also never see this Nobel laureate's work in the wild. He's like the John Fawcett of 1990s. Yeah, it was. No, I don't think you'll be pleased. No matter what you find, I don't think you'll be pleased. The Pope's Daughter is a scrap. It's okay as a scrap, but it's not more than that. Jenny Parks is responding to Alan. Leo Percarla says, hello, Steve. I just watched Jaws 2, and it was amazing. One of those movies that feels short besides its length. Right. The shark still looks fake, but the shark sequences in Jaws 2 are better than the shark sequences in Jaws. But I don't know. Maybe I should turn in my shark fan credentials, but I don't watch those movies for the shark stuff. It's just not good enough. You have to watch modern shark movies for the shark stuff. Instead, I watch them for everything else, and the human parts of Jaws 2 are better than the human parts of Jaws 1. You don't have Robert Shaw chewing up the scenery. Instead, you have Roy Scheider doing a wonderfully graceful job acting. I I keep thinking of the scene where he comes home drunk because he has been fired for the first time in his adult life, and it's terrifically good. It's just I could have taken a whole movie like that with not a single with not a single shark fatality. But anyway, Matt Sheridan says, "Good evening, Steve. Just got back from town Christmas parade on November 25th. Oh, a little bit of eager beavers there, isn't it? Tolstoy 111 says, regarding Stephen King, you've deigned to defend Salem's Lot. I'll defend Pet Cemetery. It has a sustained, desolate starkness about the Deus Ex Machina ending. The scene became his norm. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. What you're referring to as starkness is called maudlinness. It's maudlin. It is a maudlin, manipulative book. But it's not manipulative in any kind of artful way. It's showing you what it's doing. I'm not, and I have defended Salem's Lot only marginally, only comparatively speaking. I don't defend it as a work of writing. I defend it as a work of Stephen King. That's all. It's there are bits of effectiveness to it. But I know that I'm howling into the wind here because I would be willing to bet that Pet Cemetery is probably Stephen King's most popular novel with his diehard fans, more even than The Stand. I could be wrong about that, but it always comes up in this terminology. So I think maybe there's a case for it. Uh, Connor says, I'm writing an essay on the poet Jay Wright. Are you a fan? Not a fan. I don't think I'm one way or the other. I think I just know that Jay Wright exists. Excuse me. Richardson Reed, Steve, his dogs, national parks, grizzlies, totally safe. Okay, well, I know you're just pulling my leg, but they're not the same. They're not even close. Not even close. Uh, a grizzly bear, unless it's an absolutely insanely protective sow, is not going to challenge a coordinated pack of dogs. They're going to leave. They're going to run. Simple as that. So that is not the same thing as sharks. When you are in a shark's territory, you are completely helpless. You're completely defenseless. There is no way for you to help yourself if they want to take a bite of you or take you off to eat you entirely. That's not equivalent. No matter what anybody in this chat is saying, I am not being a worrisome old lady when it comes to sharks. I'm not exaggerating their danger. How on earth could I do that? How do you exaggerate the danger of you bobbing around like a chicken nugget when a 20-foot killing machine comes nearby? Anyway, uh, Matt Sheridan says, Steve, in an earlier stream, I asked you about Rachel Maddow's new book, and you didn't seem to be a fan. Why? I have a lot of problems with the Rachel Maddow machine. I I'm not sure how many of them can be substantiated. The books, the last 2 seem to me to be just trifling little things. But in addition to that, I would really, really doubt the provenance. I Where does Rachel Maddow find the time to research and write and proof a book? Where does she find the time to do that? I just I don't know. All of it strikes me as wrong, so I have never really maybe I've never really given it a fair shot. People saying hi to each other. Tolstoy 111 says, "Hey, do you like Raymond Carver?" Suburban dude, bro. No, I don't like Raymond Carver at all. No, not at all. Leo Picard, do you like David Gemmell fantasy novels? I do. Yeah. Matt Sheridan, Stephen King adores Raymond Carver. I don't doubt that he does. I don't doubt it. Jordan Thomas, I'm in Southern California, but still would love to help. My first two are poetry. Third one is an uncompromising creativity. Is on uncompromising creativity. You must know more than I do. I have never tried it. I have no idea what it's like. I know the impression I get from other self-published authors that I've talked to is that there's an element of practicality involved. You have to have stake money. You have to be willing to put up a certain amount of money. Maybe not a lot of money, but not a small amount of money either. You have to be willing to do that. Your publisher would do that otherwise, but you don't have one. You are one. So you have to do that. I have made my peace with that. I know that Kindle Direct, I think, still advertises themselves as you can do this for free. You can do this today. But of course, I wouldn't want that. I'd want it to look good. I'd want it to look professional. And that takes money. I'm willing to put up stake money, but all the rest of it, oh my God, there's so much more that I'm sure I don't know. I could pick your brain for 2 hours. Hannah's books. No danger of birding as long as you aren't a black man in Central Park. Right. Well, yeah. You can't be crawling around in the shrubbery if you are. Uh, right. Right. But that the danger won't come from birds in that case. I'm still defending the one-to-one comparison between swimming in the ocean and birding at Central Park. Although I have to admit, I get pictures from New York people, New York friends of mine all the time about that owl. And I admit it would be kind of fun to see that thing. It's kind of a celebrity on its own. Gan Chen says, I wonder if Steve or anyone here would read Robert Galbraith, aka J.K. Rowling's 1,000 page plus crime novel. Would you agree that Rowling is in desperate need of an editor, as Stephen King does? Well, I read the last two Galbraith novels, the really long ones, and I don't know that an editor could have helped. It's if by editor you mean someone who condensed their length, I was okay with the length. It was the sloppiness of the writing. The same thing as in the Harry Potter books. It was the sloppiness of the writing that bothered me. Lots of narrative energy. Definitely someone who likes the idea of having readers, which is always pleasant to see. Uh, and the last two had pretty interesting things going on in them. I was never tempted to stop either one of them. Uh, if by editor you mean someone who would compress the works, I don't know that I see that. I don't know that I would. I don't know that I would automatically know how or why to do that for either one of them. That not anything good, but I don't think they're anything bad either. Matt Sheridan says, I remember you talking about that Russian kid getting eaten alive by a shark last summer. I'm sorry I watched that footage and it still haunts me. Well, keep in mind, Matt Sheridan, I did warn you all not to find the footage. You can't unsee it. There are a whole bunch of things now that are on YouTube that you can easily find that you can't unsee. So the only excuse, the only proper way to go is not to see them. And that footage of that kid uh, is well, it's it's horrifying, utterly horrifying, because as I mentioned at the time, unlike so much other shark footage, it leaves absolutely nothing to your imagination. You can actually see the shark's head come out of the water and bite him right here and pull him under. And that's after it's been tormenting him and eating him for 5 minutes while everyone on shore just watches. Uh, That's not easy to see, and you can't unsee it. So when this subject comes up in other discussions in other contexts, feel free to take my advice. Feel free to take my word for it. Same thing is true. I try not to get preachy about too preachy. I'm preachy all the time. I'm very opinionated, but I try not to get too doctrinaire about factory farming meat. But 20 years ago, you had smuggled out reports, maybe a picture or two and the person ran the risk of being taken behind the warehouse and beaten to death with a tire iron and buried in a ditch. I just sorry, I know he was in town. I didn't see him. The local sheriff says I didn't see him. Now there's long amounts of footage of what happens in those abattoirs, what happens to those people. If you watch it, you can't unwatch it. So don't watch it unless you're prepared to watch it and change what you do. With sharks, I don't know what the change would be other than staying out of the water. Connor says, growing up at a fundamentalist Christian school, I've learned that literally anything that happens is somehow an end times prophecy. Yes, I agreed. But this guy, the guy that I'm thinking of, I wish I could remember the name of his channel. You could all go and watch, see what you think. He does live stream every day, almost every day, and he's young. And there's nothing vague about I know what you're talking about moving the goalposts and shaping what counts as prophecy, but he's being very specific. He has never said it this way, but the subtext of his channel is none of us are going to grow old. That in 3 years the world won't be here anymore. Instead, in 3 years, Jesus, who he refers to as Yeshua, that Jesus will be here, that a supernatural realm will have been established on earth. He says in 3 years that's going to happen. So, as far as he's concerned, as far as he is telling his viewers, 2030 is is 2030 is not going to look, and there aren't going to be nations anymore, there aren't going to be oceans anymore, there aren't going to be farms anymore, or agriculture, or weekends, or work, or anything like that. No, the world's not going to look anything like it does. There's going to be something out of Lord of the Rings. He's obviously wrong about that, but he's being very specific. He's not being vague. Uh, Matt Sheridan says, I feel like some people want to see Trump return because they have a weird desire for disaster to occur. Yes, some people definitely think that way. That reading guy says, if Jack London hasn't been filmed correctly, what about Dostoevsky? Is it even possible? I'd like to believe that anything is possible for filming. For a long time, I said I had a list of things that I thought were unfilmable. And I was wrong every single time. I thought that Lord of the Rings was unfilmable. I thought that Gormenghast was unfilmable, for Pete's sake, and I got them. I thought that the Lathe of Heaven was unfilmable. I was wrong about all of those. So I'd like to think it can be done, but oh my God, Dostoevsky is the ultimate test. I would think the ultimate test. I don't know how you would do that. It takes something really, really interesting. Imagine Wes Anderson, only intelligent. All the weird stuff that he does that moves in and out of people's independent perceptions of reality. You would have to do that for Crime and Punishment. Only not gimmicky. You couldn't. Oh my God! Did I just invoke the fates? Did I just guarantee that we're all going to live to see Timothy Chalamet as Raskolnikov? I did, didn't I? Oh my God! I'm so sorry. His reading says is responding to Ganchin. So, and then responding again. Julie Martin says regarding the end of the world, what happens when he wakes up in the morning after it is supposed to die? Well, I don't know. That's the thing about this kid and some people like him. That's what I don't understand. The ones that are concrete and sure, those are the ones I don't know. I have no idea. There's that famous film footage, right? There was an end of the world prophecy just a few years ago, about what, 10 years ago? Some of you will know what I mean. A guy very famously made the news for selling everything that he owned because he didn't think he was going to need it anymore. And he was outside in a crowd of people when the hour came. Someone had a camera trained right on his face. As the hour came and went, and he realized, I am completely penniless. I'm going to have to live as a dependent on my relatives. We have that moment on film. We have that moment, exactly the moment when that happened. I don't know what he'll do. I hope that he doesn't kill himself. It seems to me like that's the only out that he's left himself. But who knows? Who knows? He could meet a wonderful, smiling young woman. He's married now, I think, with kids, which is terrifying. If I'm remembering that right, it's terrifying to think that he has authority over kids. But he could meet someone, maybe a young man, and all of a sudden, all that goes out the window. Oh my God, I was in such a state there. I didn't know what happiness was. That could be. He's not happy. That's why he does this. But anyway, Kevin J.N. Steve, do you enjoy Scrabble? I imagine you would be quite good at it. Watched a movie called Word Wars on Pluto TV. It's about national Scrabble players. Well, I appreciate the vote of confidence that I would be really good at it. I have not tried it recently. I It's the same old story. You can probably see it coming a mile away. I was invited to try it years and years and years ago, and my dogs ate pieces. My dogs ate tiles, and I was not invited back. View from the bars here regarding birding. My favorite episode of Jonathan Franzen's career is when he wrote an article saying birds need more protection from cats than global warming and got canceled by the Audubon Society. And now the Audubon Society has been canceled. There's no, if you haven't been canceled, you aren't on the map these days. Matt Sheridan, speaking of shark films, what about the cinematic masterpiece that is Jaws: The Revenge? My favorite, I forget who I naturally think of these things in terms of criticism, of of reviews. And I forget who wrote it, but one reviewer at the time said that Michael Caine walks around the movie stooped over like he's trying to hide from his responsibility to be in it. I thought it was really cute. I can't watch it without thinking that. Uh, Steve Bronstein says, people are scared of dying, and maybe I will be scared too, but as of now, I like Mark Twain's quote, I was dead for billions of years before I was born and never suffered the slightest inconvenience. Right. Yes. Well, yes, right. We shouldn't confuse a good quote with a good quip with something that's true. You're not going to, if you live in America, you're not going to want to live under a fascist dictatorship, and you're not going to have a choice. That will turn your life into a daily misery. Uh, Again, by 2030. So I agree completely. I mean, in the huge scale of the cosmic scale, it doesn't matter. Ingrid Fitz, is Richard Dreyfuss in Jaws too? No, no. We have Brody's wife on a dodgy phone connection with him, and he's in the Arctic Circle, so he's not available. Brody wants to confer with him, but he can barely make out any kind of phone signal. So, and he's not in the movie. No, he's a busy shark researcher, so we don't see him. Hamilton Thompson, did Big Canoe News offer you the chance to review the Scorsese version of Killers of the Flower Moon since it was a book? Um, I don't think Big Canoe does movie reviews at all. I don't think they have a movie or a TV or cable review option at all. Uh, and they wouldn't have to offer me the chance to review the book, like for instance, in context of the movie, because I set what happens in my own section myself. They don't. I don't need to ask permission. I don't need to seek permission, and they don't make any suggestions. I that was one of the primary conditions of me taking the job is that I get to run that section. Can't have two hands on the tiller when you're doing something like that. Absolutely not. Not if you want it to be good. And I think my book section is really good. I think it's national quality good, just in the smallest possible venue, so nobody knows about it. Uh, but uh, but actually, that's kind of an interesting idea. I wonder if they would go for a couple of movie reviews. I wonder where we'd put them. I'm not sacrificing any of my space. I have 2 pages, and that's not enough. But I wonder if we could put some somewhere else, or if maybe they're against it. That's a really interesting idea. That's totally absent from the paper. That would go well in the entertainment section, I think. Or is the entertainment section, do they sometimes run movie reviews? I'll have to check and see. I'll have to boot that around. That's an interesting idea. Kevin J.N. is back. I really enjoyed reading Jaws 2. I'm sorry I gave it away. Yeah, it's worth revisiting. It's a fun novel to reread, but maybe you'll find it again. Certainly, if I find it, I'll remember and grab a copy for you. Matt Sheridan confirms Dreyfuss is not in Jaws 2. The Book is Brian's. What do you think of David Grann's work? I've been close to picking up The Wager, but I haven't done it yet. Do you recommend it? This is going to be a case where Olive at a Book Olive and I disagree slightly. That doesn't often happen, even though we're very different readers. She liked The Wager a lot more than I did. I thought it was just by the numbers. So I would not strongly recommend it, especially if, like so many people in this chat, you are badly rationing your reading time. I think what you would be doing if you did that would be setting aside valuable reading time for a so-so reading experience. And who wants that? And the only reason I say it up front is because a lot of you have this weird Christian attitude where if you start a book, you have to finish it. so I want to make sure you don't start something that's going to trap you in a so-so reading experience. Ingrid Fitz says, thanks, Matt. I don't know what that's about. Oh my God, the chat jumped again here. Let's go back to thanks, Matt. That was a nice short comment, so it'll be easy to find. There we go. Street Medic says, sorry I'm late. Had to bring this guy back to life. Yes, you get a pass. Matt Sheridan, how about the shark in Jaws 2 has a giant burn scar? Could it not be anything any more evil? Well, it has a burn scar for a reason. It's burned in the movie. It's a I think it's designed to not humanize, but to show us that the shark can be hurt because this shark is bigger than the one in Jaws. That fact is really underscored in the book, but it's still pretty easy to see. It's supposed to be. I think it's supposed to be true in the movie as well. But we see how the shark gets burned, right? In the famous water skiing scene. Uh, John Peter or Petter, never mind sharks. How would Frida react to an aggressive kangaroo? You think? Have you seen those videos? I have seen those videos. Yeah, and they get my blood boiling. They really do. I would react the same way the owners did. The only difference being that I can't imagine what those owners are doing with their dogs. That the dogs are just sitting there. So I have maybe it's just the way a lot of people domesticate their dogs that way. They break their spirit and make them into not really dogs. I have never had a dog that wouldn't be viciously fighting, and in the videos that I've seen, they're not. They're just standing there hopelessly waiting for someone to save them. That would not be true with any of the dogs that I've had. They would have been vicious. I don't eliminate the dogness of my dogs. Never. I never do that. So that was kind of weird to see the resigned look on all the dogs' faces. Like, well, human, will you save me, or will this weird man-like creature kill me? I'm not going to do anything about it one way or another. Jason Smith, hey Steve, why do you think Judge Holden dances naked at the end of Blood Meridian? I just don't understand what it could ever represent. I think it represents a level of purgatory, man. Yeah, I think it does. It's something about purgatory, man. Jenny Parks is responding to Street Medic. Leo Percar, regarding the first Jaws, there is a lot of old man in the sea ruminations and whatnot. Maybe that's why it's mentioned in Jaws 2 as a joke or a wink, don't you think? Uh, well, I don't know about that specifically. There is a lot of winking at both the book and the movie in Jaws 2, the novel, I think. But I often wonder how much of that I'm seeing, that I'm just importing. Street Medic says, well, he didn't have a pulse. Now he does, so I guess that fits the definition of a zombie. Okay, I don't remember what that's about. Maybe you're responding to someone else. Matt Sheridan says Lawrence O'Donnell wrote a really good book on the 1968 a few years ago. Right, he did. And I didn't have any of these thoughts about his book, which I really liked. So what is this that's going on here? Is it something about me? Is it something about Rachel Maddow that just seems fundamentally unserious to me? A little bit canned, a little bit condescending. Is it a couple of elements that we need not get into that might predispose me to like anything that Lawrence O'Donnell does? I don't know. Let's just move on. Jenny Park says, are there any TikTok books that are any good? I've grown a little addicted to BookTube, tearing them apart. Newest one being Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. Well, I wouldn't know what TikTok books are. I don't have TikTok. So I only hear about it third hand. I don't actually see it. I have not heard of any TikTok book that is any good that I know of, that I've read, but probably there are some. Is there a serious? Excuse me. Is there a serious side of book talk? I don't know. Excuse me. I don't know if there is or not. Matt Sheridan says, "What is your favorite work from Shakespeare?" I would have to go with Macbeth, personally. My favorite is Julius Caesar. Uh, Hamilton Thompson says the Dr. November chat yesterday was a real hoot. You guys were all over the place. We were all over the place, and we are. We're also all really enjoying it. We're all really enjoying the process to the point where we started to think about maybe doing a live stream regularly, whether it's Dr. November or not. Uh, it was a lot of fun. We were all over the place, and I was embracing that. I wish that I hadn't had to leave. I don't know how long the chat lasted after I was gone, but I am bound by my little baby. This is my little baby. I'm bound by my little baby. If she needs me, then I have to go. There's no doubt about that. Especially when she's fresh off a bout of diarrhea. Uh, Gagging for Lit says, "Did you complete your NaNoWriMo this year, Steve?" Yes, I started this Stevestream by mentioning that today I won NaNoWriMo. Today I exceeded 50,000 words. I have not finished my story. I'm dragging it out. I have one more scene, the final scene of the story, which I'll write tomorrow. And then I'll be done with NaNoWriMo proper for 2023. a highlight of all of my NaNoWriMo experiences. But I couldn't bring myself to finish it today because it would be so bleak. It'd be almost a whole week of no Viofala. I'm going to miss it. So I'll do that last thing tomorrow, and then that'll be that. I'll be all wrapped up, and I will only have to think about professional writing for the end of the year. Jordan Thomas is back. Sounds good. I used Kindle Direct Publishing before, but I'm brainstorming for my fourth book coming this June. Okay, why? Oh, I've got a million questions for you, Jordan. I have a million questions for you. Are you sure you won't Voxer with me? I've got a million questions for you. If you used Kindle Direct Publishing for three books, the three books you have under your belt, why are you thinking about moving? Are the negatives outweighing the positives? And if so, what are each? Why would you be brainstorming something else? Or are you? Is that what you mean? That you're brainstorming something else? Oh, I have so many questions. Alan says a celebrity owl. I think this channel has jumped the shark. No, it's true. Just go to Google and type in Manhattan celebrity owl. You'll see there'll be endless pictures of it. People follow its every movement, every minute of every day. So an escaped owl. It's extremely unusual for the area. It appears to be the only one of its kind, and it appears not to want to move on. So you just go to Google and you'll see there are plenty of pictures of it. Uh, Monet Doyle says, when I've been to Florida, I stay on the beach as the water comes up. Well, the beach is beautiful in Florida. Absolutely. It's just going into the ocean that I object to. Ryan says, Steve, I love you and your channel, but you're not scaring me out of the ocean. I I'm not meaning to. I'm not meaning to. Go right ahead if it pleases you. It just strikes me as insane. Absolutely insane behavior. Bad enough just wading up to your waist. If you wade up to your waist and a shark happens to come anywhere near you, it's going to be able to do whatever it wants to you before you can get to traction. Even up to your knees is a little bit dodgy, but a shark's not going to come in that far. But I see people who go all the way up to their neck and just bob out there to talk with each other. I had a marine biologist friend a long time ago, an old friend of mine. His name may have come up in a video earlier today, who said, if you are in the ocean, you are within 10 feet of a shark. No matter what you think, you are. They're not going to care. They're not going to be interested. You're never going to know it, but it's true. I'm not trying to scare you out of the ocean. If you do it and love it, if surfing is the source, then by all means go to. Uh, Tolstoy 11 says, incidentally, in one of his writing books, Stephen King makes fun of Trollope, referring to "Can you forgive her?" as "Can you finish it?" Yeah, and he thought it was clever to do that. Yeah. Uh, well, the proof is in the pudding. I I firmly believe that unless you are a Stephen King addict, unless you're a Stephen King, you're just mind washed by him having created your entire reading persona. I believe that Trollope will hold up pretty well alongside Stephen King. I think that "Can You Forgive Her?" The fun nickname for it in Trollope's own day was "Can You Stand Her?" but it's a cumulatively overwhelmingly powerful book. I believe that if you read it with an open mind, you would think, all right, well, I'm still a Stephen King fan. I still like his books. I will still rank them and tier them and re-rank them and re-tier them. But I'm not going to say that it's anything like this. This is completely better in every way. So I think you would say that. Richard Reed's still checking my Mayan calendar. Is a preacher's kid allowed to check a non-Christian end times calendar? I wouldn't think that would be allowed. Street Medic says, unfortunately, seeing horrific things is part of my job description. Yes. Yes, but you're not forcing anybody else to see them, which is good of you. Ryan says, if Jesus is here in 3 years, I'm diving with Meg. Yeah, I don't think I'd want to meet him, but it doesn't matter. He's one Near Eastern mythological figure among thousands. It's just as likely to be Horus as it is to be Jesus, but it's not anybody. It's not any. This guy is wrong, and I feel for him because he's young, and he doesn't strike me as completely lost, just completely insane. He is certainly going to, if he's still alive, he's certainly going to be able to look at his old videos in 2030. And he is saying on his channel, and there are other channels like it, that 2030 is not going to happen. Anyway, Rich as a Reed's odds of a miniature schnauzer attack. I always remember back to years ago, a couple of years ago at the old house when Frida jumped up on your lap and was just savagely attacking you, and you were trying to fend her off like that. This 10-pound ball of fury. Frida, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, Frida likes to attack people when she likes them. That's when she starts to bite you or paw at you or dive around at you or make that choking sound of hers. That's when she does it. She doesn't do that when she's getting to know you. She does that when she knows you and likes you. I remember I was just sitting there on the couch. You were right next to me on your easy chair, and she was just going at you on your lap. This horrible little flurry of fury. Jenny Park says, I live on an island surrounded by water. Luckily, nobody sees Scottish food. Nobody likes Scottish food, so I should be fine. Fine for what? Fine for what? Are you talking about sharks? Or are you talking about a fascist America? If you're talking about a fascist America, you're dead wrong. If you're talking about a fascist America, you are no more than 25 minutes away from an American military base. Or rather, that base is no more than 25 minutes away from being able to lob something on you. Uh, and Donald Trump fancies that he has Scottish ancestry and has often joked in private about how he'd like to own Scotland. I'm just saying. He doesn't. He has German ancestry, but he likes to think that he has Scottish ancestry. He likes to romanticize about it. And he has often joked for 35 years about how nice it would be instead of owning a golf course in Scotland to own Scotland. You can say we have a parliament, we have an army. Don't be ridiculous. Okay. All right. That's what Poland said a century ago. That's what France said a century ago. That's all I'm trying to say here is that all I'm seeing now, all across the board, alt right, alt left, center, everybody is complacency. That's all I'm seeing from anybody is complacency. I just anyway. Anyway, Bookish Brian says, "Where is Harry Seldon when you need him?" Kevin J. N. There's a guy who ran the Overcomer Ministry who called for this. You're thinking of Harold Camping out of California. Is that the guy that I'm thinking of? I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Where the camera's trained right on his face when he realizes that it's not going to happen. That he's given away everything he has for nothing out of foolish delusion. Uh, that reading guy says, which Lathe of Heaven movie do you recommend? Oh my God. The adaptation by the BBC, not the movie with what's his name? Well, I'm blanking on his name. The kid who plays George Orr in the movie. Oh my God, he's so awful. I'm no wonder I'm blanking on it. No, you want the original BBC with Bruce Dern, a very young Bruce Dern as George Orr. That is amazingly good. I don't think you'll regret watching that at all. For all I know, it's free on YouTube. Jason Smith says, Steve, what are some of your favorite philosophers and your favorite books by them? Eddie Plato, Spinoza, Wittgenstein, Camus. What are your faves? New to this channel, are you, Jason? I'm thinking you're probably new to this channel. I don't like philosophy at all, not in the slightest. And I don't have any favorites because of that. It is an utter waste of time. You must be new, or either that or you're having me on. I don't have any favorite philosophers, I'm afraid to say. Tolstoy 111 says, we are entering potential dates for the 2000th anniversary of the crucifixion. So be ready for year after year of eschatology-related craziness. Well, maybe Apophis will end all the craziness. Maybe it will just end all of it. All it takes is one glancing little, the inner solar system is a pinball array of little rocks, big rocks. If a rock the size of a Toyota hit Apophis, it could easily alter course to strike Earth. For all I know, its course is already sufficient to strike Earth. For all I know, that's true. You don't know what's going to happen. You have no idea if a nearby solar prominence is temporarily flaring in Earth's magnetosphere. That could easily make the difference. This thing is going to come very close anyway. That could make the difference and pull this thing in. If it strikes the planet, that would change everything. Absolutely everything. Uh, Ingrid Fitz says there are so many cults that believe the end is near and they end it for themselves. Right, exactly. Heaven's Gate. You mentioned Heaven's Gate, 1996. That's what I worry about when I see these things. It's worth a smile and a grin when I see them on YouTube. But you can't help but have Heaven's Gate in the back of your mind when you're seeing it. It all looks like, oh, this is zany. How can anybody believe this crap? And then you remember actual cult programming can do. It's uh, anyway. Jordan Thomas says signing off, but great to have hopped on. I agreed. Had followed on Twitter. Also, have a blessed evening. Well, thank you. I don't know how followable I am on Twitter. I think I'm approaching 2,000 people who follow me on Twitter, but uh, I post random stuff there. I like to pick fights there. I think if had to guess, I would guess that a lot of you follow me only to watch to see whether or not I'll pick a fight with somebody. You never chime in, but every once in a while, I love to pick a fight with somebody on Twitter. uh, Even people that I like. Uh, that reading guy says is respond. Oh no, he's gone. The chat hadn't jumped in such a while. Let's see if we can find you again. Uh, uh, let's see here. Wow, there's a lot of stuff here. Okay, you're responding to Jason Smith. Uh, a street medic says Jenny Parks You're responding to Jenny Parks. Jenny Parks says, I must admit, I love Scottish food. Knowing that everything I'm eating is a heart attack waiting to happen makes it fun. Monet Doyle says, I went to church today. The preacher did a homily that I didn't understand. I was thinking, am I the only one who feels that way? Well, it depends on the preacher. Some of them aren't very good at what they do. I, the homily ought to be a sacred thing, small s sacred. It ought to be. It's public speaking, so you should be good at it. And a lot of preachers I know are not. So it might not be you. Street medic. It's my first day back after 2 weeks vacation, and I read 9 books, just a blip on the Steve scale, but I'm happy with it. 9 books is wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Although connected with last night's Steve stream, when I was talking about all these channels that are talking about all the corrosive negativity of book talk and booktube. One of the qualities, one of the notes that all of them struck over and over again is, all these people, they're all lying. They're telling you, oh, I read 100 books this year. Oh, and they pause, they look at the camera and say, oh, in what world? Oh, who do you think you're fooling? I'm sitting there saying, I also find it unbelievable to read 100 books in a year. Let's just put it that way. Uh, Omen Fazeli says, if you were to recommend 2 Pamuk novels, which would those 2 be? I'm thinking of buying Snow and My Name is Red. Good Lord. Those are the 2. Wow, I saw the first part of your question. I was immediately going to answer that. Those are the 2. For novels, those are the 2. So you can't go wrong. Absolutely can't go wrong. Matt Sheridan, Harold Bloom loved that Blood Meridian ending. No, he didn't. He didn't read it. Harold Bloom. I swear. Would Cormac McCarthy even exist for you Cormac McCarthy fans if it weren't for Harold Bloom? If Harold Bloom didn't exist, would you even know this Cormac McCarthy guy exists? I swear, he's the one and only tentpole on which your admiration of this ridiculous fraud rests. I've never understood it. Nobody pays attention to what Harold Bloom wrote in any other thing. You don't care what he wrote about Mishima. Anyway, Colo 1546. Hi, Steve. In the Jaws books, are the sharks related? Yes, the shark in the second book uh, is related to the shark in the first book, and the shark in the second book is pregnant with two pups, and is therefore ravenously hungry, just ravenously hungry the whole time. Uh, uh, as in father, mother, then offspring. I've only read Jaws 2, but I got that impression. As in Jaws 2, that is the impression that you get, and that's also true in the movie, where Brody, the aforementioned scientific woman, Brody is trying to pin her down on whether or not a shark can have a personal motive for returning to a certain territory. Uh, which, let's be honest, we're not sure they don't. We know nothing about shark cognition. We can't study it. We're not sure they don't. When that scientist lady says sharks don't take things personally, we don't know she's right about that. No idea. Ingrid Fitz says people do that to horses, break their spirit so that they are robots with no natural behaviors left. People do it to dogs a lot. I see it a lot. I see it every day when Frida and I are out on our walks. Every day. Completely broken animals. Entirely so focused on food. I've got a little pouch at my belt of treats, and I have used those to break your will so that you'll do anything for a treat and you won't do anything without one. So you just walk forward like a brain pithed zombie, no matter what. It's always a joy when Frida and I meet a dog who's an actual person, who has not had their soul broken like that. It's actually wonderful. Uh, Street Medic says, Jenny Parks, you should try. Oh, okay. You're talking to Jenny. Street Medic says, Macbeth and Julius Caesar. Steve finally got something right. Oh, did I? I think I've got quite a bit right. Just in this stream alone. That reading guy, Steve, you've mentioned you've met a few presidents in person. How did you accomplish that? Well, sometimes with book tours, sometimes in press tours, because before I did book reviewing, I did just straight up news reporting and op-eds and that sort of thing. And also for a long time, I was pretty involved in Nashua, New Hampshire politics. Not personally, I wasn't a candidate or anything, but I was directly involved with someone who was. And any of you who know American politics, every candidate goes to Nashua. They spend a lot of time there. They'll meet with anyone. They'll talk at length with anyone. That gave me a chance to meet and talk with a lot of people, presidential candidates and also wannabes and also rans. That was the main way. Was Nashua, New Hampshire, beautiful Nashua, New Hampshire. Jenny Parks, a nutritionist would be horrified by what I eat. Well, they're horrified by what everybody eats. James Riccardo, there was a Rolling Stone story about book talk. The gist was that it was being inundated by lit bros recommending Infinite Jest. Sounds implausible, but consider the source. Well, in this case, I don't know. I don't have any firsthand experience of TikTok. So I don't know whether or not it's being overrun. All I know is that it's generating lots and lots of complaint videos and also a wonderful analysis video. There's a YouTube channel called According to Alina, that Alina. And According to Alina did a wonderful video just recently on Book Talk. Just wonderful. I strongly, strongly recommend it. If I had a mod, they would be putting the link in the chat right now, but I don't have a mod. So you're going to have to go to According to Alina yourself and find it. Cannot recommend it strongly enough. Let's see here. Jenny Park says, whilst we are chatting about animals, is there an update on the suicide bunny? Well, not recently. No, what those of you might not know, Jenny Parks is referring to the fact that for a long time in the spring there was a bunny in a field directly in view of this window, just sort of hanging out and porking out, eating himself sick in the middle of an open field of grass, too far away from shelter, so that if he were attacked by something, he couldn't make it to shelter. And he didn't seem to care. And then I lost track of the suicide bunny because my surly houseboy put the air conditioning unit right in that window, which blocked my view. The unit is out of the window, but I have not seen the suicide bunny. It's possible that he bought the farm in the time that I was not looking at him. James Ricala says the only celebrity owl for me is the one that framed Michael Peterson. This is a big celebrity in Manhattan. It's all anybody, all the birders. Manhattan has thousands and thousands and thousands of dedicated birders. If you have a place like Central Park, then you're going to have dedicated birders, and that's all any of them can talk about. The Peregrine Falcons must be so upset that they are not the stars anymore. Street Medic says, I wonder how many people got bombed right in the eye looking up at that owl fly over. Owls are very careful about that sort of thing. You almost certainly won't get pooped on by an owl. Street Medic, Salem's Lot is one of the books I reread while on vacation. Okay. Ryan says, after Dr. November, do you have two other writers who deserve to stand next to Le Carre on the podium, second and third? Well, John Buchan would be one of them. Maybe Eric Ambler. I'm starting to like Eric Ambler. I'm working my way up to A Coffin for Demetrius. I'm reading around in his other books. Coffin for Demetrius, I think, was the most critically praised. I don't know if that means it's the best one, but I'm going to save that for last. I was completely enchanted by his autobiography, so that has helped to read his novels. It's possible they'd be second and third. The two people that I have not, uh, there's the one writer that I'm feeling a little guilty of. I'm sorry that Dr. November doesn't have more time to it, but one writer that I am going to revisit at least a little before Dr. November is over is Graham Greene. I'm feeling a little bad about that. I'm wondering if maybe that is skewing the numbers here. We'll see. The Spaminators here. Wow, what are we talking about? Sharks. Well, it's been a lot about sharks. Yeah, it's been a lot. Ryan, Trump is like Gene Hackman in Superman 2. I'll take Australia. Uh, well, in the case of them both being frauds and bald, sure. Gene Hackman in Superman 2 is meant to be adorable, I think. He's meant to be adorable. Certainly, he gets the best line in the show, all pretty much the best line in the movie. Jason Smith is responding to Matt Sheridan. Rena is reading, says, we also have all three of the biggest navies in the world. Fascist America can definitely reach you on an island. It's it's not a good idea to dismiss. and yet everyone is dismissing it. It's not a good idea to be complacent about it, and yet everyone is being complacent about it. It's just history repeating itself almost to the century mark. Mary Tumulty says Donald Trump's mother was an immigrant from Scotland. Oh, was she indeed? Maybe that's why he has eyes on the whole place. Uh, let's see here. Richards and Reeves, can we send Trump back? Yeah. He has an active plan for sending people back in air quotes. He has an active plan for that. And he has a willing servitor. He has a willing minion, a Nazgul, to implement it. And that Nazgul is Vivek Ramaswamy. All of the fascist people who are in American populace or in the American public eye know exactly the main chance. And that's all they want. They want that performative cruelty. If they can't do it on their own ticket, they'll go wherever they can do it. Uh, if people are looking at Vivek Ramaswamy's so-called plan to deport anyone, just anyone in the world, just anyone in the country, deport 100 million people, deport babies. So you're an anchor baby, but you can't. I'm going to change the constitution. You can't stay. I'm going to deport you to your parents' country of origin. What's that you say? Your parents came here 17 years ago. There are no relatives in that country. No one knows you in that country. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna just drop a baby out of an airplane in Nigeria or Uruguay or whatever. I don't care. It's the cruelty that's all that matters to me. I want to be horrible. It's millenarian thinking. It's we want to do all of these incredibly unthinkable things because we do not believe we will ever be held accountable. Always the most dangerous people. Uh, anyway, Stephen Bronstein, what will things be like if Trump succeeds in becoming a dictator? He's already laid out what they'll be like. Project 2025 has laid out what it will be like. There'll be all sorts of touches that people are not willing to admit. When I mention them, people think, oh, don't be ridiculous. And I don't know what to say. Read a book on 1933 Germany. Read a book on what normal Germans were saying. In Germany in 1933, in Berlin in 1933, if you had said, well, if you let this lunatic come to power, if you're complacent enough to let him come to power, after he's written a book, after he's told you what he's going to do, after he's tried to do it, and you put him in jail and didn't keep him there, if you let this lunatic come to power now in 1933, then in 2 years, his picture is going to be in every government office, every school, every church, and you're going to have to praise him every time you start any kind of official proceeding. You're going to have to start by saying, praise be to the leader. If you'd said that on the streets of Berlin, normal people like you, like me, would have said, don't be ridiculous. That'll never happen. This is a free country. That'll never happen. Anyway, the last thing we want to do is pull this. Oh, we were supposed to end at 10 past the hour, weren't we? Ooh, you wascally wabbits. We were supposed to. Oh, here, let's get to the end of the comments and wrap this up. Jenny Park says Scotland doesn't want him. Sorry, Mark, he's all yours. We'll settle with pooping on his golf course again. Street Medic says my major was biology, but I minored in philosophy. If it paid, I would do it full time. Oh, the chat bounced again. Major time. Oh my god. Where did we go? Oh my God. All right, here we go. Dylan Cook says, what are your thoughts on the recent Stephanie McCarter translation of Ovid's Metamorphoses? I didn't particularly like it. Seemed agenda-driven to me. Richardson Reed, Starlink will save us all. Well, you can keep an eye on it with your telescope. Street Medic says, what's your Twitter handle? Oh my God, does anybody know? What is my Twitter handle? I don't have anything. All I have near me is my Oasis. I don't have anything near me to tell you. How horrible. I think it might be ST Donahue with no period, just STDONO. I think. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what my Twitter handle is. Oh my God. How horrible. I'm so bad as an influencer. Jenny Park says, have you always been this feisty, Steve? I'm afraid so. Evil Joshua says, technically, if Apophis ends the Earth, that's a win for the Egyptians. Always bet on Akhenaten's team. Well, Apophis wouldn't end the Earth, obviously. But it would, if it was a direct hit, it would certainly wipe out. If it hit a city, it would wipe out that city. But it would also probably drastically alter the environment. Drastically. I don't know that it would kill all life on Earth. The Earth is pretty tenacious. It's pretty full of life. I'd be willing to bet that microbial life would live. But I don't see human life being around 50 years after that. Where would you grow crops? How would you grow crops? Uh, Hamilton Thompson is responding to Richardson Reeves. Jenny Park says, "Guess we should have trusted the ancients all along." Richard Reeves is responding to Hamilton Thompson. Street Medic says, all I did was work out and read, which is easy if you just avoid distractions, like family." Yeah, at best, the family is a distraction from those things. At worst, it can be worse. J. Scott Phillips is here. Since we are predicting various Armageddons, how is that a parade of troughs looking on Blob Watch today? Right. Let's see what Blob Watch is doing. I haven't looked, but you're right that we had a parade of troughs that I don't think is going to come to anything in New England. Let's see. We'll give it a minute to update the satellite stuff and see what's going on. Oh, okay. All right. All right. Okay, this is nowhere reflected in the actual forecast. So now we've got this thing. The troughs have all banded together into this massive storm. I don't know what that is, but that is not going to come to New England. Is it moving in this direction? Yes, it is. Now it's going to go up into Canada. There's no way. You've got this disturbance on the coast there. There's no way this is going to come to Boston, or it would be all over the forecast by now. That's only 5 days away. There's no way. There's no way that's huge, and it's mostly snow. But what about you? No, you are still as mild as mother's milk over there. You got nothing at all. Little minor depressions here and there. Jason Smith says, "Steve, any reason why you don't read philosophy? I'm kind of appalled by your philosophy slander." I do read philosophy. Please don't make the usual mistake of philosophy bros who say that the only reason I don't like it is because I haven't read it. I've read a lot more of it than most philosophy bros have read. I don't like it because it's a complete waste of time. It's empty wordplay and extremely egotistical because of that. It's worthless and useless. You are better reading a giant killer shark novel than any work of philosophy that's ever been written. James Rucala, if Cormac McCarthy never wrote Blood Meridian, Harold Bloom would have had to write it for him. It's just every time McCarthy comes up, Harold Bloom's name gets mentioned. I've never heard them not mentioned together. Matt Sheridan, The Jaws, The Revenge. This time it's personal. Yeah, the later Jaws movies bothered me because Brody dies off camera, dies of a heart attack. It's a giant killer shark novel. You don't have to have any holdovers from the first two movies. You can just have a giant killer shark novel and call it Jaws. You can just do that. I don't know why they did that. And they didn't do that. Instead of drawing out the Brody family, he loses two adult sons die horribly from sharks. The little kids that we see in the movies, they shouldn't be growing up and then dying horribly by shark attack. Richards and Reeves, we need a giant starfish movie. Well, you're not up on movies. You told me that yourself, and you're certainly not up on superhero movies. So I won't mention Starro the Conqueror, who did make anyway. There is actually a superhero villain that is a giant starfish, is what I'm trying to say. Jenny Park says, "I love the banana boat scene." Daniel Blake, didn't Harold Bloom teach Blood Meridian for a number of years at Yale? How did he manage that? It's not that hard. It's really not that hard. Even if, by some chance that I never saw, he did read the book, there was no way that he liked it as much as he said he did. It was only to generate what we would now call currency or clout with the young people who are constantly making him feel old. You don't even need to know anything about Harold Bloom. All you need to do is see how he analyzes other literature, all other literature, and then watch what he does with Blood Meridian. To know right away that something is fundamentally different here. This thing's getting a pass for some reason, and that ought to be untrustworthy. You ought not to trust that. Besides, do you like the book? Do you Cormac McCarthy fans like the book, or don't you? Do you need a daddy figure to tell you that it was good, or do you like it on your own? Or is it that when the people bring him up to me because they want to oppose one ranting old coot with another ranting old coot? Is that it? I don't know. Jennison Smith says Blood Meridian is probably one of the best Western novels of the 20th century. Isn't anywhere close. Isn't a Western novel, and it's terrible. It's not even not one of the best. It's not even good. It stinks. Please name anything that stands close. so that you could say no. So that you could say no. I could name a dozen off the top of my head that bury it, that just bury it alive. You don't care that it's a Western. You don't care about it's I Lonesome Dove and True Grit are 2 that come to mind, but there are a dozen others that come to mind that are better than Blood Meridian, for Pete's sake. Jason Smith, I'm so envious of those who've never read Blood Meridian. Me too. Me too. The thing I would trade for that experience is breathtaking. Aaron says, talk of spy novels with no love for Alan First. Afraid not. No, that's been a big disillusionment of mine with Dr. November. This is the inaugural year of Dr. November. And Ken Follett, Frederick Forsyth, and recently, this last couple of days, Alan First, all I'm seeing are the defects. I don't know. Like I said on yesterday's live stream for Dr. November, it could just be that just mentally, temperamentally, I just want to reread John le Carré this year, and anything that takes me away from that is suffering for that fact. I'd like to think that's not true. I'd like to think that I'm coming at all these things critically, and all I'm seeing in Forsyth and First, and especially Ken Follett, are shortcomings that aren't there in John le Carré. So no love for Alan First, no hatred for him, but no love for him, certainly not. What did I read just last night? Let me see. I discovered just the other day that I can't get my Kindle Oasis to charge higher than 95%. It stops at 95%, no matter what. I don't know if anybody else has ever experienced that, but it's oh, here we go. It is Night Soldiers. I read Night Soldiers just the other day. To poor effect, to poor effect. So, uh, let's see here. Kevin JN says, "How are your plants, Steve? I'm the proud owner of a rattlesnake plant now. Hope I don't kill it. Central Park Effect is a great bird movie. Jonathan Franzen even has a small cameo. My plants are kind of ailing. I don't know that they long for this world. The gnat problem seems to have cleared itself up. And one waggish friend of mine said, "Well, it's because they don't live that long. They live for a few days." Uh, I don't. I compared what all 4 of them look like now to what they all look like when I got them, and they're clearly ailing. I am clearly doing something wrong. They're not dead. I water them on a regular, sparse schedule. They've got plenty of sunlight. They're not dead, but it's not turning into a long term success. Aaron says the Suicide Squad reboot was a giant starfish movie. Yes, it was Star of the Conqueror. Ryan says Steve Graham Greene is a bad writer and he should feel bad. We might be a bad writer, but what about some of his espionage stuff? I mean, I'm not, as I mentioned, just on this live stream, I'm not really caring about encountering bad writers. But is it maybe that some of his agent books are good? Some of his espionage stuff might be good. I mean to do a much bigger, more systematic reread of him anyway. But I should read a couple of his more explicitly espionage stuff for Doctor November. Uh, Street Medic says I've never read Blood Meridian. Martin S says which Mishima do you like? I enjoyed the Sailor Who Fell from Grace, but I didn't enjoy the Sound of the Waves as much. Uh, you you didn't like? Oh, you no, you didn't like Sound of the Waves as much as Sailor Fell from Grace with the Sea. So you did like it, just not as much. Uh, I like all of Mishima, so I'd be very curious to know about that. Jenny Park says, "I feel the problem with book talk is that most are kids without a lot of experience reading, and yet and say that these books are incredibly written, whilst older readers feel confused about how it can be." Yeah, a youth-dominated thing. Yeah, like BookTube was, right? In the bad old days, BookTube was youth dominated. Jason Smith says, Steve, what about The Road or No Country for Old Men? What are your thoughts on the novels and their film adaptations? You must be new here. They stink. They're off. The film adaptations are partially good because you're not dealing with this stupid prose, but still. And what I think about The Road is amply documented. I did a multi video review of The Road, 100 pages at a time, assessing it at great length and in great detail. I'm sure you can find them if you type in YouTube. Steve Donahue and the road. I'm sure you'll come up with quite a bit. Uh, Street Medic says the Mar-a-Lago push. Well, it's funny, of course, but it's not going to be funny when it happens. No American thinks that. They're just complete complacency. You can worry all you want, but I've got a job to go to. Well, you're not going to have a job to go to, or it's not going to be the same kind of job. It's going to be a job that requires groveling. You're going to have a local Trump official to make sure that you grovel. You can say that's imaginary. That's exactly what the normal people like you and me in 1930s Germany said. They said, "Don't be ridiculous." And it won't be a question of surprise. The Trump camp, Trump cult, has been extremely explicit in what they want to do and how they want to do it. They've been extremely explicit about that. They aren't hiding anything the way Hitler did. But anyway, let's see here. The judge and jury. Hello, how are we? We're good, but we're wrapping up. We're not going to stay forever. We're not going to keep this going. This has been great, absolutely great, but we can't keep it going. Uh, let's see here. The judge and jury returns. Do you like Ambrose Bierce? I do. MTNGRL585. I thought Trump. Okay. No idea of the context for that. Hamilton Thompson, glad to catch a live stream later, Gator. We'll just call you MTN. I thought Trump's mother came from Scotland. Yes, it has been established earlier in the chat that his mother came from Scotland. All the more reason why he will want to own the place. Jenny Park says, one look at Blob Watch, and all I can think is, did you anger Zeus? Well, I didn't know this thing. I haven't been looking at Blob Watch. I only look at it, but this thing is the whole width of the country. It seems to me that if this is real and accurate, then Boston's forecast for a week from now should be sleet and snow, and they aren't. So maybe this is going to dictate those forecasts. Maybe those models will change. I don't know. I think we're supposed to get a light spring rain on Monday, but not a bit. That's a huge storm. I hadn't seen that. Street Medic says it's raining here. Bring on the car wrecks. J. Scott Phillips says, wasn't there a giant starfish attack on the cover of JLA #1, Star of the Conqueror? Yes, indeed. Street Medic, read The Quest for Blank Clavering. It's about a giant killer snail. Sean O'Donnell says, good Lord, my first live Steve stream. Yes, but it's ending. It's ending. We can't do this all night long. It'd be fun, but we can't. The Spaminator is saying, Lonesome Dove, they're happy. Think that might be a reference to a Cormac McCarthy fan saying that the Blood Meridian is the best Western of the 20th century. And there's none better. Name a single claimant. Whoever it was who said that did not add the Twitter closing shot of "I'll wait," but you Lonesome Dove, of course, was coming to everybody's mind. But there are a dozen others. Jenny Parks, still never read a single Western. Maybe I will finally will for June on the Range next year. You absolutely should. Some of them are very good. You would love True Grit. You would love it. You'd also love Lonesome Dove. I know you look at the size of the thing on the shelf and you think, oh my God, I'm not going to devote my whole life to reading a Western. But you would really like it. You would, despite the size of it, you would love it. It will pull you in right away. I might also suggest a short Elmore Leonard Western. Valdez is coming. I bet you would like it. I don't think you'd stop reading. Let's see here. Aaron says, I'd love to know what you think of Alan Firth's faults are. He's one of my favorites. Well, the faults that I'm seeing, first of all, it's not what I think. Okay. I can spot a fault. No, I can tell the difference between a fault and delusion. It's not what I think. But he is an easy narrator and an over-explainer. Maybe again, it's just that I'm comparing him to Le Carre, who does not do either of those things. He's not an easy narrator and he is not an over-explainer. Maybe just I'm in the mood for him. And so when I get to a spy writer like First, who is explaining things to you, he is laying out a scene, he is a different kind of espionage writer. Maybe I'm just not liking it in the context of espionage fiction. It could easily be. It's just I've been thrilled by my reread of Le Carre this month. Thrilled. And I even the first time that I read all of Alan First, I wasn't thrilled by it. And the second time, Night Soldier is like the third one that I've read in November and reread, and I'm certainly not thrilled in the reread. Not to say that he can't be a favorite of yours, but he's not doing it for me. Street Medic says, gotta go. He's probably got to go save somebody's life. Uh, I have to go too, but we'll get to the end of the comments. Jenny Park says, "Be careful what you asked for, Aaron. I still feel sad about his dislike of Gaiman, who's my second favorite author." Oh, you're talking to somebody else. You're saying goodnight to somebody else. The Spaminator. I love the movie version of No Country for Old Men. The performances are great. When I got around to the book, I was very disappointed. Anti Guy says, "I refuse to believe Harold Bloom read Sabbath's Theater as well, considering how much he praised it. It's a grotesque novel. He got burrs in his bonnet and expounded on them. I don't want to speak ill at all, but his book tour for the Western canon laid clear that he sometimes made claims for things without knowing them that well or at all, because he was making claims for other reasons. When it comes to Philip Roth, is very much because he hated the rising specter of third wave feminism. Hung his hat on books that struck him as sandcastles against that tide. Uh, Aaron says Steve likes all of Mishima. Mishima the fascist. I don't care about his politics. I'm talking about his books, his novels. I do like almost all of Mishima, almost all of it. Sean O'Donnell, I tried to read Mishima's Sun and Steel, but gave up several times. Oh, well, no Mishima fans in the chat here, and someone trying to cancel him. Let's see here. Jenny Parks, I still feel traumatized by early booktubers yelling at the camera and unable to sit still. Every once in a while, you'll still find one. The ones that do that still do it. They haven't changed because it's made them lots of money. You just, if you encounter them and you find that is really traumatizing to see, you just stop watching. Uh, and the platform, the whole attitude has changed. Uh, Aaron is responding to Jenny Sparks, to Jenny Parks. Ed Wiley says, "I've just returned from a nightclub, but a Saturday night is not complete without Stevestream." Oh, that's right. It is Saturday night, isn't it? Good Lord. 100 of you here for a Saturday night. Well, we're wrapping things up anyway. You can go right back out. Jenny Parks, me too. Steve is the reason I've managed to read 170 books this year so far. Was that a response to Aaron? What did Aaron say to you? Steve and I disagree on plenty. I still enjoy his company. Well, you should. That's the whole beauty of this when it's done right. We're all friends. It's just that some of you have wrong literary opinions and I have right literary opinions. That's all. We can live together. The Spaminator, anything dominated by individuals born after 2005 is objectively stupid, literally stupid. Is that so, Grandpa? Oh my. Copper says, "I wonder if Steve has ever read much of Faulkner. Cormac is an elevated descendant of Faulkner. I always find it interesting when people praise Faulkner but bash Cormac." Well, you wonder if Steve has ever read Faulkner, but you're not asking Steve, even though you're in the chat of the Steve live stream. So I guess you must not be curious. You're wondering. Maybe someone else will tell you whether or not I've read Faulkner. You're not asking me. So Richard Reeds is saying, "True, but it should be after 1980. Yeah. You Spaminator, if you hit that note with Mark, you'll get him going." Oh, I'm surprised you didn't say 1880. Copper says, "I love The Road. It's one of my favorite movies." Well, I was largely talking about the book. The movie's terrible, but it's a different thing. I wasn't talking about the movie. Uh, the movie at least has, well, no, it doesn't really. It doesn't really have anything. It's based on a horrible book. Uh, well, if it's one of your favorites, that's great. Uh, and J. Scott Phillips says, "Wasn't The Road a Hope and Crosby movie?" Kind of dating yourself there, Gramps. Got a couple of old people in the chat. Copper says, "I feel conflicted about Blood Meridian, but mainly renowned critics like Bloom." He's just inextricably linked with this book. Say Blood Meridian is one of the greatest Western epics, on par with Paradise Lost, Homer, Dante's Comedy, Faust, Moby Dick, etc. Oh, uh, you shouldn't feel conflicted. You should feel nice and straightly unconflicted. If anyone, Harold Bloom, Lionel Trilling, yours truly, compares anything by Cormac McCarthy to Moby Dick or Dante's frickin' comedy, you shouldn't feel conflicted. You should just ignore them. Just ignore them. That's all. They are insane. They have no idea what they're talking about. They are trying to get attention. That's all. Uh, that reading guy says Steve streams always descend into movie talk. How do we know we're not ascending into movie talk? Maybe movies are better. But, and then people bring up, I didn't bring up movies. I didn't do that. Let's see here. Jenny Park says the movie has Vigo, and I'll watch anything with him in it. Yeah, but some are better than others. Some of the movies that he's in are better than others. right? I mean, I grant you, he's an extremely magnetic performer, but he can still be an awful pile of trash. He was only in the road because he's a huge Cormac McCarthy fan. I don't think he would have taken the role otherwise. Well, it'd be easy on him, not much in the way of dialogue, but compare what he does in the movie version of The Road to, for instance, A History of Violence. No comparison at all. Anyway, Ed Wiley says, renowned critics. You caught that, did you? Kevin J.N., the Charlie Rose interview with Bloom exploded interest in Blood Meridian. Yeah, yeah. Uh, that reading guy, we need more writing talk. You can single handedly bring back author to. I'm seriously tempted. I'm certainly considering that I'm not going to let the end of NaNoWriMo stop writing videos. But what should I do? I obviously shouldn't make a second channel, but should I do a writing video a week? Make sure that I do a writing video a week. I shouldn't do a writing video a day, right? And I'm not talking about single-handedly bringing back AuthorTube. I don't really care if anybody joins me in making these videos, but I know that people like them, and I like doing them. So I should do it a regular thing, like other regular things that I do on my channel. Uh, Anti Gaia says he was great in that Michael Douglas film too. Uh, which one are you thinking of? Which one are you thinking of? Uh, Now I'm trying to do a 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, try and figure out what movie. I can't remember. That reading guy says I need more scolding. Well, yes, my writing videos would be a lot of scolding, but a lot of you need more scolding. Ingrid Fitz says I thought the '70s movie Carrie was just as good or better than the book. It was better than the book. Think of all the incredibly soppy, manipulative, maudlin garbage in the book. The director had to cut that out for the movie, and it's better for it. Um, let's see here. Alan Cowley says Saturday night is Sunday afternoon in Melbourne. In Melbourne, I've never been. I never will. I'll never see Melbourne. Oh, that reading guy, a writing video a week, a starter kit a week, last week on BookTube every week. Put them on the calendar, please. Do you all still like last week in BookTube? I never do it anymore. I always get conflicted because I always think it after a certain point. I mean, if you're a 200 subscriber channel and you're naming a whole bunch of videos and thereby excluding a whole bunch of others, that's one thing. But if you've got thousands of subscribers, I always talk myself out of it because I think surely the channels that aren't mentioned are going to think poorly, that they're poorly used, or even maybe some of the channels that are mentioned might feel like this is a lot of pressure. I didn't sign up for this. Why are you mentioning me? That sort of thing. I don't know. I don't know about last week at BookTube, but the others, sure. The Spaminator, you should do a fiction writing basics series. I would do a whole bunch of basics. I would basically create a series of YouTube videos that echo and mirror and adapt the writing modules that I used to teach in classes. Those are a lot of fun. Uh, let's see here. Jenny Park says, I need scolding too. I want to see if I can get to 200 books read. Never done it before. My average is 80 or 90. It's not scolding that will get you there. You just have to mold your life to it. That's all. If you want to do it and you set aside the time and you don't allow yourself to be distracted, you can easily do 200 a year. Even with a full-time job or full-time classes, you could easily do that. The whole question is, first, are you setting the time aside? And second, are you not being distracted? If you do that, you'll do it. Uh, let's see here. Jenny Park says, I miss Bro Watch too. I have a Bro Watch video that's kind of brewing in the background. I'd like to do it before the end of the year, obviously, since I think I've done more than 2 Bro Watch videos this year. I'd like to do that. Uh, that reading guy says those last week in BookTube videos get lots of extra views, I believe. Oh, that's a reason not to do them, though. Ed Wiley says perhaps invite some writers you know to do a Q&A. Can never get writers to talk engagingly about writing. Almost never. It'd be a disaster. It would just be a disaster. Half of them only write because I scolded them into doing it. I don't know who I would invite. Omnipotent Poobah says, can we all mark New Year's resolution not to prod Steve with Cormac McCarthy's stick in 2024, please? Aiden says, even, where's the chat suddenly exploding? Even coming from James Joyce and the beats as a 12-year-old, Cormac McCarthy stuff was so unenjoyable. Nick Piccirilli says, videos based on your writing courses would be great. That's what I would do. That's kind of what I did with the Western Canon Starter Kit, and that seemed to go over well. That reading guy says a weekly live stream with other old book geezers too. Oh my god, if I could do a weekly stream with Jason and Mark, I would love that. Paul Marin, but not the real Paul Marin, says Irish stew leftovers. Pass me a spoon because we're wrapping things up. 10 past the hour. We're wrapping things up. Jake Strawn says, I'm currently reading the Anthony Briggs translation of War and Peace. Did you approve of the translation? Are there better ones? I do approve of the translation. I like Rosemary Edmonds better and Constance Garnett. I like both of them better than either the mods or Briggs. But they're all good. Sure, they'll definitely work. The Spaminator, please do the modified courses you used to teach. There would be nothing like it on YouTube from the perspective of a professional critic. Steve Bronstein, what do you think of Charlie Rose's interviewing style and the Me Too accusations? I don't have any doubt that the Me Too accusations were true. I don't think they should end a career. There's such a thing as disciplinary action. There's such a thing as having someone apologize and mean it. There's such a thing as changing your ways. I like his interviewing style a lot. I don't think that, except in egregious cases where someone's being forced against their will or having their own career ruined. I like all social movements. I think hashtag Me Too went too far in a lot of cases, and Charlie Rose I would put as one of those cases. Randy Ray, am I late? You are indeed, Randy. You are, Randy. Your middle initial is late. We are ending at 10 past the hour. We've been doing this for a long time. Aiden says, Peregrine Pickle, nothing else, just had to say it. James Ricardo is saying hi. Richard Reed saying hi, just starting. Jenny Park says, Steve is too stubborn not to come back and tell all why we're wrong again. What have anything to do with stubborn? We still have a month. We have a month together. Paul Marin, pull up a chair. Randy Ray, yeah, but not for long because we're wrapping this thing up. I'm at the end of the chat. I've had a wonderful time. This has been a huge amount of fun. A little bit too much Cormac McCarthy for my taste, but Randy Ray says the L stands for lover. I think in this case it stands for late. You're showing up 2 hours into a 2 hour and 10-minute live stream. Jenny Park says, but the gutter is fun. Richardson Reed says L stands for Lone Star. And that's it. We're at the end of the comments. Matt Sheridan says, back from the store and it's freezing. I noticed today that it was unseasonably cold for Boston. It shouldn't be lower than the 50s Fahrenheit, and it was. It was chilly today. I collected an entire rain barrel all the way up to the top of rainwater from that last rainstorm. And this morning, first thing when the Bean and I went out, the top was frozen over. I almost had to Google what that's called. It's called ice. I'd almost forgotten. I haven't seen ice in years in the natural world. And there it was in that barrel. Let's see here. Jason Smith, Steve, I've never heard you say anything good about Cormac. That's because there's nothing good to say. He's a terrible, terrible writer, a self-evident fraud. Where would you put him on the list of best writers of the 21st century? I would not put him on that list. I would put him almost at the top of the worst writers of the 21st century. He is a terrible, terrible writer. He doesn't know the first thing about any of the elements of writing, not the first thing about any of them. So he wouldn't be anywhere near that list. He would be way at the other end of the spectrum. Matt Sheridan says New York is very cold. Yes, very cold here too. I don't know why that is. It certainly won't stay true. Richard Reed says still buried in snow. Yes, the rainstorm that we got that filled my rain barrel. Mark got his snow, and Deb got even more snow. And I'm wondering if this thing, this latest blob, I'm wondering if that, look at the top of that is all snow. If that progresses forward like this, Boston will get a sleety mix and you'll get more snow. I just don't see that in the forecast. So I don't know what. Let's see here. Auntie Gaia says, I'm a big fan of Rick Perlstein. Do you think we'll see Bushland or Trumpland? We won't see Trumpland. Unless something drastic happens to change the public mind frame, we won't see Trumpland. Or he'll go to jail or be killed for it, have his fingers crushed. Steve Bronstein, what do you think of the Joy Luck Club? I kind of like it. I don't see the phenomenon business. I thought it was an average novel. Matt Sheridan says, Cormac is not Herman Melville, that's for sure. All this Cormac McCarthy talk, oh my God. J. Scott Phillips says, maybe Cormac should try his hand at NaNoWriMo. But Jenny Park says, or he could just learn punctuation. Randy Ray says, how many Strange New Worlds novels have there been? I think 2. Maybe only one. No, I think there've been two. Maybe more than that. I know of two. Uh, Aiden says, but Ursula Le Guin did say that Gene Wolfe is the Melville of science fiction. Would agree with that. I would agree with that. Technical farce. I don't think I know that name. What are your thoughts on Kenneth Coate, his poetry, his books on poetry? He's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Randy Ray, remember when we used to get a new Star Trek novel every week? I do remember. Yeah, that's not going to happen again. Paul Marin, but not the real Paul Marin, says, and the 2024 McCarthy Award goes to Sally Rooney. Aiden says the real Blood Meridian is the nightmare that the chat is trying to induce on Steve tonight. I'm not planning on sleeping tonight, so I'm free from nightmares. That reading guy says we are torturing poor Steve with Cormac McCarthy. Now you have full permission to yell at us next time you stream about writing. Yeah, yeah, I think so. J. Scott Phillips says I missed the summer of Trek. That was good. That was a lot of fun. I'm not going to read any Star Trek for the rest of the year. Matt Sheridan says, do you think the MCU is coming to an end? I do. I do. Can't have an MCU if you don't have people in the theaters. It seems to be forgotten. That is always forgotten by massively successful corporations. They always forget that you need individual people paying for things. If you work to alienate them and they're not there anymore, your money goes away. That's as simple as that. Your money goes away. Marvel hasn't made a watchable movie in years. And they know that. They're proud of that fact. You could be proud of that fact for a while you're burning off Papa Disney's money, but after a while, it's just it's just it's not going to be possible to do. You can't have a 79% drop between opening night and the next night, or opening weekend and the next weekend, with every movie, and still be a going concern as a theater. So, or as a studio, you can't. That can't happen. That means every time you make a movie, people will go to see it out of curiosity, realize that it's absolute crap, and not go back and tell anybody else not to go back. Well, that's not gonna that's not gonna last. That of course is going to bring you to an end. They'll try a Hail Mary move. The rumored Hail Mary move is that they're going to try and move mountains of money in the direction of the original cast of the Avengers to get them to come back for a movie. I don't think that's not a long term plan. So even if that money is there, I don't think that would help any. Everyone's saying good night, and that's good because we have to wrap this up. We have to wrap this up. I hate to say it. Matt Sheridan says, "How do you even begin to follow Endgame? Not possible. Could have been possible, not in the epic scale, but with more personal stuff, with more realistic superhero type stuff. That would have a tonal shift would have worked, and then you build up to another big bad. In this case, Galactus. But it's not going to happen now. It's not going to happen now. Uh, Ed Wiley says, I saw one YouTube video where a guy compared the Judge to the Eye of Sauron as the two compare. Matt Sheridan says, good night, everyone. Thanks, Stephen Frieda. The Spaminator says, my nightmare is always more weird than scary. Every time I eat cold pizza before bed, there's a 100% chance of weird nightmares. And everyone else is saying good night. And we are going to, okay, the reading guy says we need one more blob watch and one more view of the bean. The blob has not moved. It's this gigantic thing that was not there yesterday. This gigantic thing that looks like it is slowly moving east. I'm going to have to check the long-term prediction models, especially the European model, and see if anything like that is on there. The last time I looked, it was smooth sailing for the rest of November and well into December. So that's your blob watch. And then there's the bean. She's sound asleep. My little girl is sound asleep. That there you go. That's that. We're going to wrap this up. We're going to wrap up this Steve stream. I had a blast. I can't thank you all enough, but it is 10 past the hour. So I'm going to end this for now, and I'll be back. I'm going to try to make videos tomorrow. I'm going to try to do that, despite whether or not we have a Steve stream. I still want to make videos. So I'll wrap this up, and I will see you all tomorrow. Thank you so much, all 100 and whatever of you that showed up at the peak of this. I'll see you soon.